Heretic is a 2024 psychological horror movie, written and directed by Scott Beck and Brian Woods. It stars Hugh Grant, Sophie Thatcher, and Chloe East. Two young religious women are drawn into a game of cat and mouse in the house of a strange man.
We just need to go home.
I won't keep you if you wish to leave.
But I want you to choose which door to go through based on your faith.
What does this have to do with us leaving?
Everything.
So I think it's really interesting how I get in the comments pretty regularly people saying things like horror hasn't been good since the 80s or 90s, or there are no good horror movies anymore, and things like that. And it's one of two things. Either on one hand, they just are not watching enough horror movies, or the even sadder thing is they're not enjoying, they haven't found the enjoyment in the horror movies that are happening now. Either way, it's a bummer, and I hope for your sake, you're able to stick with the times and able to keep up with the best horror movies that are happening each year, because I'm telling you, it's a much more enjoyable place to be. And this is one of the best horror movies of this year. Hands down, no question. I'm not gonna say at this point if it's my number 1 or 2 or 3 or 10, but I'm telling you 100% it'll be in my top 10. This movie is so good. It's everything I love in independent horror. And this is another A24 release. And this has been kind of a slow, quiet year for A24. They haven't had any really big hits this year, but this one, I think this one's going to be a hit. I will be shocked if anybody that is normally a fan of A24 kind of horror movies doesn't enjoy this one, because it brings everything. It's philosophical, it's intelligent, it's well written, the dialogue is fantastic. Hugh Grant is absolutely amazing in this. This is one of the very best performances I've seen from him, and I hope we get to see him in horror roles again, because he is creepy, he's funny, he's just so well spoken, he makes a lot of sense, but then at the same time, he is terrifying in the same exact moment. It's this really interesting dichotomy that this character in this movie has, and I love it. I'm here for it because it's so well written. This movie gets creepy, it's eerie, it's so atmospheric. I love the set design, I love the way this house is built and the different rooms and the way it's all laid out. And I was kind of afraid going into this that a lot of the best moments were shown in the trailer, because especially this most recent trailer, it shows quite a bit of stuff. But I'm here to tell you, this movie still has stuff up its sleeve. The directions that this goes, it surprised me. There was a few twists and turns in this that I thought it was going one way, and then it flips on its head and goes in a totally different way. And the ending of this, it has balls, it does some things you wouldn't necessarily expect, but at the same time, it feels satisfying. It has an interesting message and point that it's bringing up, because this movie deals with religion. It talks a lot about religion and your faith, and if you believe in it or if you don't, and both sides of that are represented in this. And I think this movie does a great job of really laying the information out and just letting you decide what you think this movie is trying to say, and really just coming away with it with whatever you need to take with you. Now, with that being said, it does have a nice conclusion. It isn't ambiguous as far as you do see an ending here. It's just a question of what you come away with and what the message and what you think the actual layers to this, what the actual story and meaning behind it is. Because I think they could have easily have just made this movie an anti-religion movie. And I guarantee you some people are going to come away with that. But that's not really what's happening here. That's not really what's being said here. Because if you really pay attention to the ending of this movie, there's another layer here that if you pay attention to, you can come away with. But I just love a cerebral horror movie that can also be scary and creepy and atmospheric and have all these creepy horror, haunted house almost kind of elements, but yet it still makes you think. You know, there's still substance to this. And wow, does this movie have substance? There's a lot of elements to this that reminded me of Barbarian, where you have a real similar feel as far as how atmospheric that movie was, how creepy at times that movie got, some of the imagery, things like that. But where I feel like this movie is different is how well written it is and how much of a story and message and all these things like that are here as well. And so I think you could have fun with this and get scared and really appreciate it as a horror movie. But also, if you're someone like me that enjoys to see a real story with layers and a lot to think about, and be left with something after the fact, a real psychological kind of horror movie, then I think you'll definitely enjoy this on that level as well. And besides Hugh Grant, Sophie Thatcher and Chloe East are amazing in this too. There's a point in this movie where you think one of them is kind of shining more than the other. But then as it goes, you start to realize that the other one, there's a lot more to them than you realized, and that they shine too. And there's a lot of interesting elements to who they are as a person as well. And that's an example of what I'm saying when I say how well written this is, because it never really kind of stopped surprising me. There's a lot of different changes and layers and twists and turns, and the whole movie just is this great cat and mouse full of suspense, and you just don't know what's gonna happen next. And it's all presented in such a well done way that it feels surprising, it feels fresh, it feels very original. And it's cool because a lot of the things you see in this, in some way or another, will remind you of other movies you've seen. But the way it's put together, the way it looks, and the way it plays out, and then on top of that, the amazing acting performances here, they make it all feel very different as a package, as a whole. And that's how you can still make a great horror movie. Even though so many different stories have been told and it feels like we're never gonna see anything new again, whenever we do see something fresh and original and exciting, it's that. It's not that the pieces of it, the ingredients of it, so to speak, are all original, but it's how it's mixed together. That's how you make something exciting and new. And I should have known, because Scott Beck and Brian Woods have been involved in a bunch of different projects, from writing to filmmaking. They made the movie Haunt. They helped write the script for A Quiet Place. I mean, they've really been involved in some great horror movies over the last few years. And so I should have known that they would be responsible for making another fantastic one. But this, in my opinion, is the best thing they've done, because everything is on point. The directing, the cinematography, the sound design is so creepy, well put together. The special effects look great. Everything feels thought out and well placed. The prop department did an amazing job in this. The whole entire location in general is just phenomenal. And it is like its own character in this movie as well. So to wrap it up, I just had an absolutely great time with this movie. Not only, like I said, is it fun, but it also tickled my brain, and I enjoy to think. I love to come away with a movie that feels like there's substance to it. So I think you need to definitely get out to a theater and check this one out, because it is absolutely one of the best horror movies this year.
Do not be afraid. You will witness a miracle.
But that's going to do it for me today. Thank you so much for checking this out. If you enjoyed it, do me a favor, hit that subscribe button and ding that little bell, because that is the best way to keep track of this channel. And when I post videos like this, and I post videos like this every single week, I also want to give a huge, massive, enormous thank you to the Ghost Pirate crew, to you guys over on Patreon, and to the channel members over here. You guys mean so much to me. And if you would like to help support this channel over on Patreon, there's a link down in the description. Or you can become a channel member by clicking on that join button down there and help support the channel that way. But like always, thank you so much for watching. Please crush that like button. And remember, guys, horror can be fun. And if you enjoyed this, click right here to watch me talk about 10 horror movies that I highly recommend. And I'll see you guys next time.